Hey everyone, thanks for watching today. So if you've been watching our videos, you'll see that we've been doing a lot of prepping videos and showing you how to be prepared if something were to happen. And we've geared a lot on natural disasters, but it's kind of led me to start doing a lot of research about other things that are happening and current events that are happening. And I want to talk to you today about two specific events that are really taking away your rights and what's really happening with this. So one of the first things I want to talk about, and I'm sure you already heard the start of the story, which is the governor of New Mexico banning all concealed carry and carry weapons in public. That sounds like what it was on the front of it, but the reality was it was actually just for certain areas that had certain crime rates, and she declared that it was because of a national health emergency that she was doing this. Now right away, everyone said this is unconstitutional. You can't take away people's Second Amendment right, but this really, in my opinion, was more of a test to see what could be gotten away with. What would happen when you tried to do this? Because it really was a 30-day ban. It was in response to a very unfortunate incident that happened. An 11-year-old boy was shot outside of a Little League park after an argument, and unfortunately this 11-year-old boy lost his life. Tragic event, and I would agree with that. We need to do something about preventing that from happening. But dig further into the story. And the further into the story you get, you realize that what really happened here in this tragic event was it was a case of mistaken identity. The people that shot into the truck where the 11-year-old boy was killed thought it was someone else that they had an argument with, that they were shooting into that truck. So it was intentional that they were shooting into this truck. Now, if you dig further into the story, because the mainstream media is only telling you that an argument happened at this ballpark and that's what triggered this shooting. But if you dig further into the story, you will find that one of the people that is now been arrested for the shooting was already a warrant for his arrest for a separate drug dealing, failure to appear in court for a drug dealing case. So you have a suspected drug dealer, first of all, was one of the shooters, going after another person that they had an argument with. The second person that was arrested in this case, when they arrested them, okay, they had a gun in the car. Now, no one's stating if it was a legal gun or an illegal gun, but they also had 100,000 tablets of fentanyl in the car. Let's add that up. Was this just an argument that happened at a Little League game, or was there something more than this? The person that did this actually sent a message to the person that they were actually intended to be shooting at in that vehicle and said it was mistaken identity, they had the wrong vehicle, more or less saying we were coming after you. Does that sound like something that was just a argument? Ironically enough, you hear police sirens right in the background here. But does that sound like an argument? A gun in the car, a known drug dealer, 100,000 tablets of fentanyl in the car? That's not 100,000 tablets of fentanyl is not someone that's using that for personal use. It's not. You're not hearing that part of the story. So the New Mexico governor says this is a national health emergency, and because it's a health emergency, I can take away your rights. But here's the problem. The health emergency, as terrible as the gun violence is, and I'm not trying to say gun violence isn't a problem, it's a problem. But the bigger problem is all the fentanyl coming in illegally from our southern border. Now, the governor of New Mexico didn't say, hey, this could be drug related, let's do something about these crimes. It's a crime to have fentanyl. It's a crime. But we're not doing anything about that. We're going to take away legal gun owners' rights. People that had nothing to do with any of this. We're going to take away their rights, their Second Amendment right. It's not a privilege that was bestowed upon them. It was a right given to them in the Constitution. We're going to take that right away because of the actions of some people that were doing things illegally. Now, you're not hearing a word about let's do a crackdown on the fentanyl coming in, or the illegal people bringing the fentanyl across the border. You're not hearing a word about that, but you're hearing a way, let's take away our rights. What I believe this is the same thing as what happened in 2020. Let's see how far we can push the American public before they'll start pushing back on things. Let's see how many rights we can take away before they start pushing back on it. Because if you start taking away the Second Amendment right, then it's much easier to take away the First Amendment right. It's much easier to take away the Fourth Amendment right. It's much easier to take away these rights once you start doing that. So that's what I believe what's really happening. This doesn't really have as much to do with the tragedy that happened, and I agree, tragic event. But the answer isn't take away guns from legally law-abiding citizens who want to protect themselves from these drug dealers that have 100,000 tablets of fentanyl with them. I'd like to be able to protect myself if something like that happens, but you want to take that right away from someone to protect themselves versus someone like with me. I want to protect myself. You want to take that away. So I'm going to be done ranting on that. But the next thing I want to talk about is what's happening in California. So the governor of California, who, make no mistake about it, he has ambitions for running for president of the United States. So this same governor in California who wants to be the president has signed several laws, and one of those laws for gun control is imposing a tax on purchases of guns and also imposing a tax on ammo. And what they want to do is they basically want to tax it to the point where you can't afford it. That's the exact same thing as taking away your Second Amendment right. The Supreme Court has already ruled that restricting your access to ammo is the same thing as restricting your access to gun. It's kind of like they're going, hey, we're not going to take away their guns, we're just going to take away the ammo for the guns. So it's the exact same thing. Now what should really scare you is they're doing this as a test to see what they can get away with. If they can get away with this, because they've already acknowledged that this is probably unconstitutional, but let's see what we can get away with. So they're seeing what they can get away with. They're not concerned about the gun violence and the drug violence and everything that's happening, because California is probably the worst state in the country for drug overdoses, homelessness problems, opioid problems. It's terrible out there. And what they want to do is restrict people's access, law-abiding citizens. They want to restrict their access by making it unaffordable for them to get ammo for their guns. So they want to restrict your access to guns while allowing homelessness to occur, while allowing gang violence to occur, while allowing, shoplifting. As long as it's, under $900, it's not really a crime. Ask any small business owner whose profit margin for any given day is probably a lot less than $900,000, or I'm sorry, $900. I get carried away. But ask a small business owner if their profit margin every day is over $900, and can they afford to lose $900 because someone who just thinks that they have a right to have that stuff more so than a legal business owner who has purchased that has a right to sell it. They feel it's perfectly fine for you to go out and shoplift whatever you need. Now I agree, the root cause of the problem and why some people shoplift is they really need things. There's things they need and they don't have the money, they don't have the access. But also, we've got a safety net in this country where if people really need food, they're not shoplifting food. When you go into an Apple store and shoplift an Apple iPad or an Apple phone, that's not a necessity. You did not steal food that you needed. You stole a product that you wanted to have. That's completely different than if there was a situation where you really needed something. And I'm not condoning that either, because I believe there's enough safety nets where you can get help if you really need help. There's organizations that help people. There's different ways you can get, the means to get food for yourself. There's ways to get food when you need food without having to steal it from someone else, let alone having to steal from a small business or any business at all because you just want that particular product. But what we're doing is we're not addressing the root cause, which really leads me to believe you don't care about the root cause. What you care about is seeing what you can get away with. You're trying to see, can you take away my rights? That's what you're trying to do. Because once you take some of them away, it's much, much easier to take more of them away. That's what it is. So this has nothing to do with, again, trying to stop crime, because if you're really trying to stop crime, you're going to try to stop the flow of this fentanyl coming into our country. That's what you're going to try to stop. You don't hear a word about that. You don't hear any big initiatives on trying to stop that. So again, I hope that this helps you out. And what I really want people to do your own research, think for yourself. If you like what I'm saying, give me a comment down below. Subscribe to our channel, it really helps us. Give us a like so more people can see this video. Do your own research, think for yourself, and realize what's happening today. Thank you, folks.